We all know those people who just take online discourse a little too far, right? The keyboard warriors and internet tough guys. I'm sure we can all understand that saying something from behind a screen that you'd never say to someone's face can get a little bit annoying. But still, there's a line drawn somewhere that differentiates valid criticism from internet tough guyism. For many, some things that don't cross the line are things like, let's say, felonies. For most people, these are pretty reasonable critiques even if you say them online. However, to some, that line is way further on one side than you'd think. For some people, it seems that no criticism is valid if the person you're criticizing could beat you in a fight. And for these people, there is no better subject for their admiration than the man, the myth, the felon, recently retired heavyweight champion Jon "Bones" Sexual Chocolate Jones. He's the prime example of becoming immune to criticism because he has aura, and the worst nightmare of the internet tough guy, boasting an impressive resume of dodging fights, eye-poking, hit and runs, juicing, and more. Yet for some loyal few is seen as the undisputed GOAT of mixed martial arts. Seeing that he's just announced his retirement, while apparently dodging yet another fight, I thought it would be fitting to go through his career up until now and the many defenses his fans will offer against some pretty heinous stuff. This is the online cult of Jon Jones.
I feel like I'm growing as a person and as a man, but I know about some demons that I still struggle with.
Jon Jones grew up in New York in a very religious community, his father being a pastor and his mother being a nurse who was also very active in church. Something that was also very prevalent in his upbringing was sports, as one of his brothers, Arthur, is a former defensive lineman for 3 NFL teams, and another, Chandler, is a former outside linebacker for the Raiders. Jon and his brothers would frequently roughhouse, and possessed a wrestling mat at home, which fostered competition and allowed him to practice fighting techniques. This is a testament to the genes and an environment that clearly led to superior athletic performance, something that would become apparent in high school when Jones became a wrestling champion and played football as a defensive lineman. It was at this time that his football coach nicknamed him Bones because of his tall, skinny frame. He also won a wrestling championship at Iowa Central Community College before transferring to Morrisville State College to study criminal justice.
Okay, so you went to school for criminal justice?
Yep.
How ironic.
Oh, really, Nina?
Jones reflects on how he thought it would be cool to be a police officer and always tried to do the right thing, something that many would cast doubt on following his later actions. He also had a roommate who was into MMA and would eventually become a professional fighter, which would inspire him to start a career himself in the sport in April of 2008. Jones would show promising athletic ability, racking up 6 wins with 0 defeats, and in one of these fights, he would seemingly kick his opponent, Carlos Eduardo, in a sensitive area.
Jon Jones a little low with the knee.
The first of many instances of alleged dirty fighting. Regardless though, Jones had built a stellar foundation and would sign with the UFC, making his debut at UFC 87 in August of 2008. He fought and won against Andre Guzmão.
Short black trunks for Jones, white trunks for Guzmão. Or black guy Jones, white guy Guzmão. That was said by Joe Rogan.
And would claim 2 more victories at UFC 94 and 100. It was at this point that he would fight Matt Hamill at the Ultimate Fighter heavyweight finale, a fight that seemed to be overwhelmingly in his favor. However, he was penalized for illegally using his elbow to strike downwards at Hamill, and since Hamill could no longer fight, it was decided that Jones would be punished with disqualification. Dana White, the CEO of the UFC, has reported trying to get the result overturned into a no contest as recently as 2019. In 2011, Jones became the youngest UFC champion ever, defeating Mauricio Rua in a fight. Apparently, hours before this fight, Jones also chased and held down a robber in New Jersey, waiting until he was apprehended. His first title defense was supposed to be against Rashad Evans, a former training partner, but Jones claimed to have a hand injury that would prevent him from fighting. However, many were suspicious of this because the injury would typically require surgery, but Jones opted for physical therapy. And because when asked at an earlier point about fighting a training partner at his and Evans' training camp, he essentially said he would be against it, and even directly mentioned faking an injury. Jones would then defend his title against Rampage Jackson, who would go on to speak out against him, calling him the dirtiest fighter in the UFC.
Jon is another story. Jon Jones is a great fighter, but I'm gonna be 100. Even if he was standing in this room, I said, but he's the dirtiest fighter ever. He's the dirtiest fighter ever. And the guy's so smart. He does the most dirtiest things. Like, I know they changed the gloves just because of John Jones. I don't know if you know, they changed the design of the gloves so you can't hold your hand like this no more. So if you fight John Jones before they got the gloves, if you doing anything good on him, and he gonna put his fingers in you, he's gonna poke you in the eye. And then if you advancing on you doing anything good, you get the advantage, you're gonna kick your knee backwards.
After this, and following a difficult win against the much shorter and older Lyoto Machida, Jones would finally face his former training partner Rashad Evans, who had joined a different camp and claimed to know exactly how to beat him. However, Jones would win without any problems. Now comes the second instance of allegedly dodging fights. Many were talking about a rematch with Machida, who gave Jones a difficult time. Jones would turn down the prospect, citing that his fight with Machida was his lowest pay-per-view, calling it high risk and low reward, and a lose-lose situation. This both gave the impression that he was afraid of losing, or at least not willing to work hard to win, and that he was heavily motivated by money, which, while it certainly wasn't his most heinous crime, didn't leave a good taste in the mouth of fans. It was also at this time that Jones was arrested for driving under the influence after crashing his Bentley into a pole. Jones has reflected on his use of and reliance on alcohol and drugs throughout his career, using it as a potential excuse if he were ever to lose a fight.
And this was stupid, but it was this mental crutch that I had. I literally would, 1 week before every fight, I would go out and I would get blacked out wasted. And my logic was, if this guy were to beat me somehow, I can look myself in the mirror and say that, well, I lost because I got hammered the week before the fight.
Following his arrest, Jones was slated to fight Dan Henderson, who dropped out due to a knee injury. His replacement was set to be Chael Sonnen, who was considerably lighter than Jones, not even being in the same weight division, with a small amount of time to prepare. Despite the odds being overwhelmingly in Jones' favor, he would refuse to fight, depriving UFC 151 of its main card event and therefore leading to its cancellation, the first in UFC history. Dana White was livid and noted that Chael Sonnen's decision to fight on short notice was admirable, contrasting it with Jones's refusal.
For somebody to fight John Jones on 8 days' notice is tough to do. But to be totally honest with you guys, one guy did. John Jones said, "I'm not fighting Chael Sonnen with 8 days' notice." Again, something that's never happened in UFC history. A guy who's a world champion and considered one of the pound-for-pound best turns down a fight.
For someone that was regarded as the potential GOAT of MMA, and still is by many, refusing a fight like this was unheard of. This remains one of only 3 cancellations of UFC events, and the only one of this nature, with 2 suitable and healthy fighters set as the main event. When asked about the decision, Jones said he didn't want to give Sonnen the opportunity of a lifetime, whatever that means. After another title defense, Jones actually did fight Sonnen, though he clearly still thought the fight was beneath him because he did not make any effort to promote it. Following this was a very entertaining match between Jones and Alexander Gustafsson, which led to the expectations of a rematch, which was turned down by Jones in exchange for a fight against Glover Teixeira, which was seen as decidedly less exciting. This and Jones's refusal to engage with Sonnen before call into question if he actually did only care about money, which he implied in his remarks about Machida. Obviously, the better the promotion and the more exciting the fight, the more he'll make. These decisions make more sense if viewed in the light of Jones being afraid of tough fights or unwilling to work hard rather than only caring about money. Jones would be criticized for this decision, leading to some unhinged interactions with UFC fans. Jones would go on to beat Teixeira, but not without sneaking in some eye pokes for good measure, of course. He would also go on to ridicule those who would criticize him for using these tactics.
People hate that. They're like, "Johnny, you're a very talented fighter. You don't need to use an illegal tactic to be successful." I try to tell people it's not intentional, but now I'm kind of known for it, and it's working.
Dana White would then state that the UFC was trying to convince Jones to finally fight Gustafsson again, in response to which Jones asked to fight Daniel Cormier instead, who was much shorter and older. These two would be extremely antagonistic towards each other in the promotion of the fight, which would lead to the first documented mask-off moment for Jones, as he changed his demeanor completely off camera to trash talk his opponent.
Hey, are you still there?
I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here. You are just the fakest person. I actually admire that you can actually be this fake, and like when the TV comes on, how you can just change. It's like you're a chameleon.
Hey, listen,
it's awesome.
I'm a professional.
It is unbelievable. It's
The
unbelievable.
fact that you're a pussy hasn't changed. but
It's
I am a
unbelievable. It's unbelievable how fake you can really be. Like, you are just such a fucking pussy. My God. It is amazing. It is amazing. But you know what? Hats off to you. You got a great PR person. Because they do a great job with training you, because you are just terrible. You're the fucking scum of the earth. You are a terrible human being, but you can sure turn it on, huh?
Thank you.
This just adds to the impression that while he pretends to be a certain way publicly, Jones has always had behavior issues in private. Jones would eventually win against Cormier though, and following this he would test positive for cocaine use, leading to a suspension. After this is probably the most infamous moment of Jones's career, and what he is criticized most for by fans. He was involved in a hit-and-run accident involving a pregnant woman whose arm was broken.
It should be noted that in a later interview, the only remorse Jones expressed was due to the fact that the victim being a pregnant woman made him look bad.
A situation come up with this like worst case scenario. That is the worst case scenario, pregnant woman.
Oh, yeah, it makes me look like a monster.
Yeah.
It makes me look like a monster.
When you found out I was a pregnant woman, what was going through your mind?
I thought, man, I'm done. I'm done.
Apparently Jones exited his vehicle, returning only to retrieve something from it, which many speculate to be more cocaine, before fleeing the scene.
Jones would later claim that he was actually looking for his bull or marijuana in the car.
Like, take 2 steps away from the car, and then I go back to the car, and I like search the car because I had it in my cup holder. And when I hit, the bull fell somewhere, who knows where it flew to. But I knew shit, like, if I can't find that bull, that's gonna get me in trouble, just having a bull in my car. So I looked for like 2 seconds, couldn't find the bull, and I just took off running.
He eventually turned himself in, and while he remained free, he was stripped of his UFC title and removed from official rankings. Jones would be caught speeding and street racing, which somehow did not violate his parole. And after only one more fight, Jones was slated to fight Cormier again. However, Jones tested positive for illegal substances, claiming that he took something that was tainted with the substance. This remark and others later, claiming to not want to eat out in public for fear of it being spiked with something, would get Jones ridiculed by critics. Rightfully so. Cormier offered to sign a waiver to fight Jones even with the knowledge that he could be cheating. However, Jones was suspended for a year, and Dana White expressed his doubts if he should ever be a headliner again. Despite this, the two would fight once more, and Jones reclaimed his title. However, a month later, Jones would test positive for steroids, and was suspended for another 15 months, before being able to return after informing on other juicing athletes. Dana White would go on to lament at Jones's inability to keep himself from misbehaving. Jones was eventually able to claim his belt again after finally having his rematch with Gustafsson. In July of 2019, Jones was charged with battery after allegedly slapping, choking, and kissing a cocktail waitress against her wishes, and was given a 90-day deferred sentence. Additionally, in March of 2020, Jones failed a field sobriety test in his vehicle, registering a blood alcohol content of more than twice the legal limit. He was also found in possession of a firearm. He pled guilty to a DUI after accepting a plea deal that dropped the other charges, and was again sentenced with probation and community service, this time with outpatient therapy as well. After this, Jones relinquished his light heavyweight belt and took time away from the UFC, feeling that the UFC didn't pay him enough to fight, completely disregarding the fact that he has actively lost the UFC millions of dollars by leading to the cancellation of multiple main cards. Dana White would refer to him as the biggest waste of talent in sports. A day after Jones was inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame, he was arrested for domestic violence, and while his fiancée had a bloody lip, she claimed the extent of the violence was hair pulling. As he was arrested, a belligerent Jones headbutted a police car.
You nerd. I hate you. I hate you. I hate you. I hate you. You nerd. I hate you so much. You nerd. On my Hall of Fame night. Say your name publicly. Say it. Garrett what? John. Officer Nerd. Calm down, bro. Heard me on my Hall of Fame night just because I'm big and black. And what did I do? All these officers. I hate you. I hate you. No, please don't.
He was charged with domestic battery, which was eventually dropped, and pled no contest to felony tampering with a police vehicle, being ordered to pay $750 and go to anger management therapy. He also publicly swore to stay away from alcohol. Jones had been hinting a move to the heavyweight division, citing the lack of known competition from other light heavyweights, despite having backed out of numerous fights, which wouldn't be the last, but whatever. After a 3-year break, Jones won a fight against Cyril Gane and became the heavyweight champion, moving up a division. He was scheduled to defend his title in November of 2023, but would tear his pectoral tendon. Finally, in March of 2024, Jones was accused of assaulting and threatening to kill a drug testing agent in his home, which he denied. However, he's been charged with 2 misdemeanors for the incident and has not made a statement since. At this point, an up-and-coming heavyweight named Tom Aspinall expressed his desire to fight Jones, something that many were skeptical of, as fans are under the impression Jones would much rather fight a 41-year-old Stipe Miocic, which would seem pretty on brand at this point. This prediction ended up coming true, and Jones would knock Miocic out at UFC 309. In the time since then, while many wanted to see a Jones v Aspinall fight, Jones would continue to duck it and has very recently announced his retirement.
What would it take to fight Tom Aspinall from the UFC? Like, what does the UFC got to do?
Said something real wild on off the cuff. I'll see you guys later.
That's it.
Yeah,
right.
Thanks for the happy
John
beer.
Jones, the legend.
Yeah.
Apparently, even after all this, a new criminal charge is coming against Jones for fleeing an accident in New Mexico. I guess some habits really die hard.
John Jones? He was the one driving the vehicle.
But they don't waste their cases with just killing you on petty crimes. But they definitely listen to conversations like this, and some of them are bored enough to kill you. To kill you.
So, listen to me, man. He's making threats, and if he's making threats, I gotta call him up strong.
John Jones is indisputably one of the greatest fighters of all time, and despite his seeming unwillingness to fight people that should be considered below his skill level, it's evident that he can put up a fight against pretty much anyone. But with how difficult he's been to work with, how many times he's been let off the hook legally, professionally, and by the public, many have remained critical and question if he deserves as many accolades. Some will see him as the GOAT, others will see him as a chronic fight ducker, drug and woman abuser, dirty fighter, and overall awful person. I'll let you decide. But let's get into what I find extremely appalling about this topic: the fans of Jones who downplay his actions, and some of the very questionable reasoning they use to do so. Not all GOATs are saints. Everyone makes mistakes. This seems to be the sentiment shared by Jones' remaining fans, who either choose to remain ignorant of his many misdeeds, claim that he is going to change after the umpteenth time, or say that it does not matter what he does outside the ring because of what he does inside it. I mean, this dude literally made an edit of Jones consisting of Dana White claiming he can't be trusted in Las Vegas, Jones committing felony tampering with a police vehicle, and a hotel security guard calling the police reporting his domestic violence.
It's hard to bring this guy to Las Vegas for any reason. The city is not good for John Jones.
I hate you.
We've got a possible DV call, domestic violence call. Female is bleeding from the nose and mouth, and he's actually a professional MMA fighter, Jonathan Jones.
You said he's a professional MMA fighter?
Yeah, John Jones.
You can't make this up. But the most common defense I've seen, especially on Instagram, is that, well, the people criticizing him wouldn't beat him in a fight. Take this post as an example.
Who gets hit by their husband? Who is addicted to coke? Who has used steroids more? Who fled from a hit and run involving a pregnant lady? Who had to call the police on their husband? How long until she gets beat again?
Pretty funny meme, but this guy commented, "Keyboard gangster. If you have a problem with him, you should confront him." This comment has almost 1,000 likes. It is not internet tough guyism to criticize someone for steroid and substance abuse and domestic violence. This is crazy. You make these memes but never mind stepped into a ring or octagon and would never say it to anybody's face. Yeah, I don't want to be non-domestically abused either. That doesn't mean it makes it okay. Even the author of this post seems to think that John is on some sort of redemption arc and that he's the GOAT. Which, I mean, considering how many legal second chances he's gotten, and for the sake of all the pregnant woman police officers and Las Vegas residents out there, I certainly hope so. Jones has a dark side to him and I'm here for it. He's not an emo girl, he's a felon. I don't understand. The only thing I can kind of compare this to is O.J. Simpson fans, at least in the perspective of appreciating how good an athlete someone was despite heinous actions. Just to clarify, I'm not saying Jones has done anything as bad as Simpson. I just wanted to compare it to another instance of ignoring actions off the field for quality of play on it. In a Reddit post asking why people seem to have completely forgiven Jones despite his many incidents of bad behavior, which was notably before he was even charged with 2 misdemeanors for threatening a drug tester, or the new charges for fleeing an accident in New Mexico. The main sentiment seems to be that his moral standing has nothing to do with his fighting ability, and that the latter is all UFC fans care about anyway, making him a sort of villain. They also downplayed Jones' steroid use by implying that every top fighter is on it. In a particularly rich answer, this is painted as separating the artist from the art. Well, when the artist is taking steroids and using his wife and police cars as training partners, I feel like I would question that analogy. Yeah, but what if that artist uses his brushes and paints to hit women? Couldn't really put it better myself. Seem to be assessed as, in general, a fact of the nature of UFC fans that Jones is allowed to go unchecked. And to that, well, there's not much more I can say. There is no doubt to the fighting ability of Jon Jones, and while I don't agree with the downplaying of his steroid use, I believe that even without it, he had the potential to be an amazing fighter. Many seem to be under the impression that Jones is on a healing journey, despite his more recent incidents. With the other felonies he has committed with slaps on the wrist, I really want to have the same faith in him that the legal system evidently does. Personally, judging from how Dana White to this day is on edge with his teetering publicity, and from his questionable past, I remain a bit skeptical, but at the end of the day, it's not for me to say. This is a little bit of a different type of video, but I just wanted to focus on the extremely appalling defenses of Jones online, especially from people who are only saying that he could beat his critics in a fight. Like, yeah, obviously, I wouldn't say it to his face, I don't want to die. It doesn't make it any less true. But I hope you enjoyed the video, and let me know what you want to see next. Also subscribe. Alright, see you.